happy travelers. You're listening to Great West Vacation with Kristen Cummings, your source for all things travel, especially to the Western United States. We will talk about all things off the beaten path to my favorite part of the country, as well as take you on our adventures beyond. You will hear creative travel ideas, inspirational destinations, clever travel tips from a local, as well as outdoor adventures for solo travelers, families, and couples. You can always find more information on our website at www.greatwestvacation.com. Today, we are going to be talking about traveling to Thailand with teenagers. And I know typically I would be talking about traveling to the Western United States because that is my specialty. But we do get out of the country, of course, and would love to share those experiences with you as well, especially parents if you're thinking of taking your kids once, the COVID virus is over. Obviously, you wouldn't probably want to take them out of the country or even out of your town right now. But we figured, since the kids are homeschooling right now and we're trying to find creative ways to keep them entertained, what better way to do that than invite my middle child, Ryan, age 16, 10th grade, to come onto the podcast to tell us about what we were doing 1 year ago, almost to the day. This episode is the first of a 2-part series of taking teenagers to Thailand. And I think you'll enjoy hearing his perspective of what that was like. If you were considering going to Thailand, you'll hear lots of cool ideas of things to do. If you're considering taking teenagers out of the country for this first time, I think you'll enjoy hearing a teenager's perspective on that as well. And allow me to introduce you to Ryan. Where were we 1 year ago, almost to the day, Ryan?
We were in Thailand.
Yes, we were. Isn't that hard to believe? Yeah. We're in a totally different world right now, aren't we?
We are indeed.
Yeah. So how are you surviving this COVID experience of being stuck in the house with your parents and brothers day in and day out? How are you staying busy?
Lots of Netflix and sleep.
Yeah.
And working out.
Good. Any Netflix recommendations for us?
Lion King is crazy.
Or Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Yeah. Lion King's not really
Lion
crazy.
King
it's kind of happy.
There is some crazy parts though.
The hyenas, yeah. Those scared you when you were little. So, last year when we told you we were going to be going to Thailand for spring break, what was your reaction? What were your thoughts on that of all the places in the world to take you?
Initially I was pretty skeptical and a bit terrified because it seemed really weird to be going to a place where I would be in the minority for sure of people there. Mm-hmm. So I was really skeptical, but I knew that it would be a really great experience for me, so I just dealt with it.
Yeah. Because you're kind of a nervous traveler anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
I am.
Yeah. You don't really like to be outside of your comfort zone.
No.
New experiences kind of make you anxious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got on board. You were you did some research and what were you excited about before we even left?
I was most excited about the food, obviously.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, because Thai food is definitely one of my favorite types of food, and going to Thailand where I would get to eat Thai food every single day just sounded awesome to me.
Yeah, like a dream.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner Thai food. Yeah, I agree. How much did you know about Thailand before we went?
Even though I was told to do some research, I barely knew anything because I didn't do much research.
Okay.
I knew about a lot of the wildlife that would be there, but I didn't really know what it would actually be like once we got to the country. Mm-hmm. I knew that it would be just very culturally different than the United States.
Did you do anything to prepare for the trip? ahead of time?
Just trusted in my mom and packed whatever she told me.
That is always good advice. Always trust in your mom and do what she tells you. So we talked about how you can be kind of a nervous traveler, just kind of nervous about new situations. Like, what were your fears, if any, or what were you nervous about with leaving the country?
I feel like my biggest, the biggest thing that was giving me anxiety was the airport, for sure, going through customs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was very new and we couldn't read the language, we didn't speak the language, and it was just culturally really different. And my biggest irrational fear was that we'd be like sent back or something, you know. And obviously it didn't happen when we got
Right.
off the plane, but I feel like I did overcome a lot.
Yeah.
Just arriving there.
Just arriving, right. So it's also worth mentioning that when we went to Thailand, you were actually sick. You had mono.
I did.
Yeah, like really bad mono.
Yeah.
And you had already been sick for about 4 weeks. You had missed most of school during those 4 weeks. You would usually make it to class for about 1 or 2 classes, and you would prioritize on what class you really needed to be in that day, and then you would come home and sleep. And we weren't even sure you were going to make it to Thailand, right? So you were such a trooper. Like, in general, how did being sick affect your trip?
Like, looking back on it, I often forget that I ever was sick on the trip, just because of all the experiences and stuff. But then whenever it is brought up, I do remember that, like, trying to adjust my sleep schedule is really rough for me. Mm-hmm. Because I was always sleeping and I couldn't tough through to stay awake for a lot of the time that we needed to, as well as eventually I did hit my limit later on in the week, and I just stayed at the hotel and slept for a day.
Yeah, it was, I mean, jet lag, you know, across the Pacific is difficult for anybody, but when you add mono on top of that, that was, I felt so bad for you, but you really hung in there. And I mean, there were only a couple minor things that you ended up not doing with us, that because you just couldn't go anymore, but you hung in there. You spent a lot of time sleeping on commutes to and from activities, but you did a great job. So we mentioned about how you were nervous about going to the airport and what customs would be like. And, you know, tell me about that flight. Obviously, the flight, you know, first time you set foot in a foreign country was actually in South Korea, when we had a connecting flight there. And what were some of the biggest things that made you say, whoa, I am not in America anymore?
So in South Korea, when we first landed and got out of the plane, it was really interesting to see just how different the airport looked. Like, it looked more like a mall, than a normal airport, and it was incredibly clean compared to DIA.
Yeah,
It was
Denver International Airport.
So it was just really weird for me to see that. And since we had that layover in Seoul, there wasn't a lot of security or customs that we had to go through there. Mm-hmm. So it was a nice break to get off the plane and see all of the culture there.
Yeah. And didn't it just seem like that airport was like straight out of the future?
It did. There was crazy technology everywhere.
Yeah, it just made me feel like Denver International Airport is like just a country bumpkin airport compared to Seoul. It was so slick and robotic and automated and clean, and, you know, like virtual reality games to play when you were waiting for your flight. And it was awesome, huh?
It was.
And we hit the snacks right away, didn't we?
We did. There was a lot of weird snacks.
I think my favorite was there was like dried eel that was peanut butter flavored. It was so good. It was like beef jerky eel with peanut butter.
I would disagree with how good it was.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
What did you like? Do you remember?
I do not remember. I did not like that one, though.
Oh, man. You're no fun. Okay, so before we get into the specifics on things that we did and saw and ate, I want to know, just off the cuff, what is your favorite memory from the trip? When you just think back on the one thing you loved the most, what was it?
My favorite memory from the trip was when we went to the Hilltribes and spent the night with them, and getting to wake up in the morning and eat sticky rice dipped in wild honey.
Yes. That was an awesome memory. We'll cover that memory for sure a little later on, because there's a lot to say about going to the Hilltribes. It was quite an amazing experience that I would recommend for anyone heading out that way. So when we arrived in Thailand, we flew into Bangkok, middle of the night, and had to get to a hotel. What? You're giving me a look right now. What do you remember from that night?
So that hotel, we decided to get 2 rooms from that hotel. Mm-hmm. And we determined through our exhaustion that I would be sharing a room with Jason, and
Jason's the stepdad.
You would be sharing a room with
the other boys.
Brothers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason and I, we get into our room. We see one tiny queen-sized bed.
Sorry.
And we're just so tired that we just like, all right.
That is so funny.
I guess this is Thailand. So we hunkered down, and we got like we arrived pretty early in the morning, so we got a good 4 hours of sleep, I would say.
Yeah.
And then we wake up and we go to Mom's room, and she has like 3 beds in that room.
3 large beds.
3 large beds.
Yeah.
And Jason and I just gave each other this look like, oh my gosh.
I know. It's so funny. We had no idea. It was just sort of like, take the keys and go. And, I had 3 people in my room because I had the Peanut, the youngest. He was little. He was 12 at the time, but he was a small 12. And so it's like, I knew whatever the situation, we would all fit. But I didn't realize we had all the big beds. It was also kind of interesting. We joked that the hotel room felt like an escape room, because we got into our hotel, Ryan and Jason were in a different room, but we could not figure out how to turn the lights on. And we were looking for clues and looking in drawers and looking for remotes. And it took us forever. And granted, we were really tired to figure out that there was like on our key fob to get into the hotel room, there's a little hidden slot that you put that key fob into and it turns the electricity on. And it's actually a pretty cool way to conserve energy. And we saw this a lot on our trip, where once you leave and take your key with you, the electricity is completely shut off. So you can't be running air conditioning, can't be running computers and leaving all your lights on while you're not at home, because they cut the electricity. But it took so long to figure out, and it felt like we were in an escape room. Like, where's the clue? Did you guys figure that out faster than we did?
I think we did. I know we figured it out because the air conditioning was very cold.
And do you remember too, like, it was a little bit of drama getting to the hotel? Like, do you remember that we had to be like corralled into this waiting area for shuttle buses, but it took us forever to find it because we weren't understanding where to go?
I do remember that. And when we first landed in Bangkok, we were trying to figure out which way to go in the airport. And I remember distinctly, like, there was like a left turn or we could go straight. and we had no clue what we were doing, and there were Thai people yelling at us from all directions, and we were just like, we have no clue.
Just
what
felt
is
like
going
chaos.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel like chaos. And it's how I imagine somebody from, outside of America just landing in New York City for the first time. Like that kind of chaos, like, whoa, there are people everywhere. This is a totally different culture. They're yelling and pointing and running and, just madness. And where do I go from here if I don't speak English? So, yeah, it definitely, that part was an adventure. Okay, so we get a few hours of sleep, and then we had a guide that we hired, a private guide named Nui, and she was adorable. And we got her from a website called withlocals.com. We actually used this website twice during our trip, and it's very affordable, all day, private tours with transportation, all your admission tickets paid. And the people that work for this company actually, they have to go through, I don't know if it's like a licensing or a certification program through the Thai government. They have to wear identification saying that they are official tour guides. But we loved both guides that we got off of this website. They were fantastic. So the first day with Nui, what did you like best? What did we do in Bangkok while we were there?
So right off the bat, we went to 2 different markets. We went to the train market, and then we went to the floating market. And I would say that those were my favorite thing I did that day. Was getting to just walk through the chaos of the markets, and like being 6'1", I was able to like see over everybody. It was just quite an experience.
And the girls liked you. How many girls stopped you for a selfie that were like Chinese tourists, and maybe some of them were Thai locals, but especially the Chinese tourists loved you.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Not as many people stopped me as they stopped my older brother, Aaron.
Yeah, he's got blonder hair, so he was even more exotic, I'm sure. But yeah, even my husband Jason got stopped for a selfie at one point, and I was feeling a little left out. Nobody thought I was special enough to get their picture taken with me. At least I have a good-looking, selfie-worthy family, though, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So when you say train market, like, what does that mean? Why do you call it the train market?
So the train market is a market that is in Bangkok that is built along train tracks that run through the city. And every once in a while, throughout the day, a train will actually run through the middle of this market, and you'll see all of the vendors quickly pull all their stuff off of the tracks because they build it literally over the train tracks. And you see everybody like crush themselves against the nearest walls to avoid the train. And it was like you're within like touching distance of a train that's running through the middle of this market. And it's just a crazy experience.
Yeah, it was pretty fascinating. And with about 3 minutes warning, all these vendors could completely pack up their little market stall, press everything against the wall. Some of the baskets of food and things they were selling would just stay on the ground, and the train would go right over it, right over this fresh produce. And yeah, it was exciting. And, they had someone out there kind of directing traffic, making sure everybody was like tucked away into a safe spot when this train came through, because it was a no joke tight squeeze and really something you had to see it to believe it. It was incredible. We tried some cool foods there too. Do you remember?
Yeah. So I think one of the big ones we tried was durian.
Mm-hmm.
And it was surprisingly pretty good.
Yeah, so durian's a fruit, right? And what does it
is.
taste like?
It's really hard to describe the flavor of a durian. It's almost like like a cheese.
Yeah. I'd say that's a good way to describe it. Like a caramely, buttery, oniony cheese.
But it smells really, really bad. And throughout the trip, it was interesting to see, because it's like the vendors, if you ever buy durian, they'll cut the durian open for you, but they go out to the middle of the road, like 50 feet away from their stall, to cut it open because of the smell it emits.
Yeah, we even saw signs in places that said it's illegal to open a durian in this place, like on the train or in the airport, any closed spaces. And
it's really funny to see the airport signs. It's like no guns, no lighters, no durian.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a pretty funny thing, but a unique experience. I'm glad that we got to try that with Nui. And when you talked about the floating market, like, describe what that was like.
So the floating market was really cool because Nui took us to a little boat rental area, and all 6 of us piled into a little, like, canoe.
A long tail boat.
And we just floated our way through this massive maze of little vendors that are just built on the water. And it was really cool. Like, every once in a while you'd be like, oh, I want to go see what that product is over there. And so we would push our boat over there and talk to that vendor, and then they would just push us along.
Yeah, I think you guys did some of your first negotiating and bartering on that trip. Did you buy anything on that boat ride?
I did not buy anything.
Oh, your brothers did.
On that boat ride, but yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And, you know, some of those vendors are set up on the sides of the river and have like a little dock that you pull up against. And other vendors were in boats. Like, we saw entire barbecue grills and people cooking food in their little boat. And then they would row over to you to serve you or see if you would be willing to buy any of it. It was pretty neat, but man, it was packed, and that was chaos. Like, all the boats running into each other, getting into these jam-packed, crowded areas. It was really fun. I will never forget it.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
So those were your favorite parts of Bangkok. After that, we took a train ride to Chiang Mai, like an overnight train ride where we slept on a train. Something that really stands out to me from this trip. Do you remember what we went through to get our train tickets?
So to get our train tickets, we were dropped off at the train station by Nui. And then we go in there. We can't read a single sign. We have no clue what is going on. We just see a large room with people in a bunch of chairs, and that is it. So we start looking around for some place that looks like we can get info from, and we find out that we actually have to get our tickets from a building that's like across like one of the busiest streets you've ever seen, and there's no stoplight. So we all like bustle out of the train station, and we're in a time crunch a little bit because we don't know when our train is leaving. We just know that it's within the next like 30 minutes, and we have to find our way across this huge road. It was like playing Frogger almost.
It really was.
And
it was probably six to 8 lanes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
With no traffic lights and no crosswalk.
No lights. Yeah, it was insane. And we amazingly got across.
Yeah. We followed 2 locals who seemed cool as cucumbers and like not even looking where they're going. And we're like, okay, that's how we do it, I guess. Just be confident and walk.
Yeah. So we finally get back across, and we have our tickets now. We have to find our way back across the road, which I feel like going back across it was worse than getting to the little building. And
this was probably the most dangerous moment of the entire trip, don't you think?
No.
You don't?
Well,
oh, I'd love to hear it then. This was the only time I felt like, wow, what we're doing is dangerous and could get us killed. How about you?
See, I saw the locals doing it though. So I was like, there's obviously some sort of trick to it.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness.
Yeah. So we get back to the train station. We just set down our bags, and I think we all took a nap, I think.
Yeah,
just
I
on
think
the
so
floor
too.
of
On the
train
floor.
Station.
Yeah, most of the benches inside the train station are reserved for monks. So you just kind of find a little corner of the floor and hang out until it's time to go. Did you like the train?
I really enjoyed the train. I feel like right when I got on the train, I fell asleep, and this was when my mono started catching up to me. But yeah, it was really nice. They came through with food, and it was really good food for a train.
Yeah, it's Thai food.
Yeah, it was
obviously.
Thai food. And then there's a time that they come through and they just set up everybody's beds and everybody's off to sleep. I remember the strangest part of the train trip for me was the bathroom because I fell asleep when the rest of the family had the discussion like, oh, you just go down there and the bathroom's right there. And I was asleep for that conversation. So it was like I woke up in the middle of the night for like 2 hours. I was like, where is the bathroom? And I've never like, I don't have any memories of riding in a passenger train until this one. And
so you didn't realize you needed to switch cars, did you?
No. So I was like, it was really scary because like I eventually saw some Thai person. He like crawled out of his bed and he just walked out of the cart. And I was like,
you can do that?
Yeah, I was like, this is like that scene in Polar Express where they almost fall off the train. And eventually I was like, okay, I have to go to the bathroom so bad right now that I'm just gonna do what that Thai person did. And so then
go off the back of the train.
I opened up the door and sure enough there were 2 bathrooms right there. And I was like, oh my gosh. So
jeez. That's awesome. Well, what I love about that train ride is it's for only $40 a person. You get a bed, you get dinner, you essentially you don't have to pay for lodging that night because you have a place to sleep, and you go to bed in Bangkok and you wake up in Chiang Mai in the but in the northwest corner of the country. Totally different landscape. Waking up in the morning to the sunrise and seeing that we were in the countryside and in the jungle. It was totally different than the city, wasn't it?
it was. Yeah, it was definitely a huge change.
So we arrive in Chiang Mai and we had another guide picking us up. His name is Anan. And Anan is a member of the Karen Hilltribe. And there are so many hill tribes in Thailand, and they're each their own ethnicity with their own language and their own culture. And but the Karen Hilltribe is the biggest one. And so he took us to go stay at a Karen Hilltribe that was not his home, but he could speak the language and everything, and set us up with that. Talk about that experience. What was it like when we arrived?
So when we arrived, there were it was very different. It was after it felt like a 3-hour drive through dirt road jungle, and we finally come up to this gate that leads into this village. And this whole drive we've been passing massive irrigation fields where the tribes have been planting all of their food, and it was really, really beautiful too. And we finally get to this gate that leads into this tribe, and the main thing I can remember is all of the animals that were just running around freely. Right when we got out, I remember there was probably 5 dogs, a handful of chickens, just a lot of animals, and they were just freely roaming around this little tribe.
Pigs.
Yeah.
Water buffalo.
Yeah, it was really crazy. And so we get out of the car, and he introduces us to the family that we are going to be eating dinner with. They're super cool. They invite us into their home, and we help them prepare our dinner, which was 90% food I did not know what it was. They were like, oh, this is like a jungle root. Oh, this is jungle fruit. Oh, this is, just
Jungle herb.
jungle herb. Yeah. And so it was just so many foods that I had no clue what it was.
And they cook over an open fire inside the house.
Yes.
In the middle of their bamboo hut.
And they have a big hole in their roof to make sure the smoke doesn't just build up in their house. It was really interesting. So we all took turns like splitting herbs and chopping things.
Chopping and shucking and mixing and...
So it was really interesting to see them start cooking. And then once we prepared all the food to be cooked, we went to explore the rest of the village, and it was really cool.
So when it was time to eat, we ate on their porch, and they brought out all the dishes.
And it was a lot of food too.
Oh yeah.
So their porch was pretty good sized, and there was probably like 10 to 12 of us all just seated around this mountain of food. And
like you sit on the ground, or on the porch itself.
Yeah, everyone just sits on the porch. And there were people from the village, like everyone, they would join us for like 10 minutes and then they would leave, and it was just really cool. There was a lot of interesting foods. Most of the meat that we ate had actually been hunted by the village like that day. So one of the meals I distinctly remember was a squirrel curry.
Yes.
And
I distinctly remember that as well.
Mom didn't try any.
I did too.
Not really.
I didn't crunch down on a skull like you did, but I tried it.
All I remember about the squirrel curry was it was very, very crunchy. And they eat a lot of spice over there. I think more spice in the hill tribes than just in the cities, because they would take like their Thai peppers by the handful and just eat them.
Yeah, and we had a really delicious like minced pork that was like almost turned into a sausage that was cooked over the fire. Oh, it was so good. I feel like it's the best sausage type thing I've ever had. But yeah, when we all sat around together, it was just like laughing and talking and making jokes, even though the only person that spoke English there was a non. It was like we were still able to communicate, wasn't it?
It was, and it was really, really fun hearing a non tell us about like what working in rice fields is like and all that.
And it was fun to see how like you could almost have jokes with them, like humor transcends language almost. Didn't you find that?
Definitely, yeah. And I especially feel like Hayden, our younger brother, he really connected with a lot of the tribe people there.
Yeah, that is one thing that I will say, and I read this before going to Thailand, but I witnessed it firsthand, is that Thai people love kids. They love little kids. They get all kinds of special extra attention. They do better bartering in the markets. They get special opportunities not available to those of us that are older. But we did see that, like a non hand whittled a what are those things? Slingshot for him even. So he got like the coolest take home souvenir because he was the youngest. So it was kind of cool.
I feel like overall it was just a great experience getting to spend that dinner with the Hill tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. So then where do we sleep that night?
Okay, so next to the house that we ate food at was about the same size of a house, and all these houses are
guest house,
yeah. And all of these houses are like lifted off the ground probably 5 feet, and they store all of their animals underneath all the houses. So we get into our guest house, and it's just a bamboo. It's completely made out of bamboo, and the floor is just bamboo. Like, if you look at it, you can see through the floor to the ground. And they just laid out blankets on the ground, and we just slept on the floor in there. And it was completely open. It was crazy experience.
It was awesome, huh?
It was. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was like camping, and we woke up to the sound of so many chickens. Roosters.
We did. Yeah, so there was like, it was funny because like I've never woken up to roosters before, but it was obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like there was one rooster, and then there was like 5 roosters, and then there was like it felt like 20. And each rooster had its own distinct call, and one of it sounded like an animal was dying.
Yeah. And it was funny because they sounded like they were spread out all over the valley, and we would just like hear them. One would start, and then it would make the other ones go, and it just kind of bounced back and forth across the valley. It was really neat.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah. And then what about this breakfast that you said was like your favorite memory of all of Thailand?
So the night before, after our dinner, Anand took us over to the guest house, and he brought out like probably 10 sticks of bamboo that were about the length of your arm. And he also brought out a big bowl of rice, and he said to just fill each one with rice. And so we did that, and then we filled it with water. Then he plugged the top of them, and he just let them sit overnight. And in the morning, he put all of them into the fire, and it took off all of the hard outside of the bamboo. And on the inside, it was left as like it was sticky rice with that was wrapped in like this thin sheet. It was like bamboo paper almost.
Yeah, like a fiber from
and we each got like a stick of this bamboo sticky rice, and you'd break off a little piece and you could dip it into different things he had, and one of them was honey from a bee's nest that they knocked down. And he showed us where the bee's nest was.
Like real jungle honey.
Yeah, like wild jungle honey. And it was really cool. He showed us where the bee's nest was, and he also, one of their main ways of hunting was actually with slingshot. So that morning after we ate, he took us out, and he showed us like, this is where we shot down the nest with slingshots. And sure enough, you could see like the little scraps of the beehive that was like 60 feet up a tree. And it was super cool to see how crazy they were with their slingshots and powder rifles.
Yeah, it was really fun, really unique. And their life is just so much slower and more simple. And, seeing the little kids running around, and the older people in the community that are, everyone's busy. They're making, thatch roofs for their houses, or sewing. Like, everybody just was busy but happy and friendly and warm. And like I said, they didn't speak English in the Hilltribes, but they didn't need to. Like, it was still such an enjoyable experience, and really had a huge impact on all my kids. I can see that. And all of us, really. Like, I would make something like that a priority if you're going to a country that is as far away as Thailand is. Like, take the time to do something that off the beaten path, for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like that stuck with me the most, just because it was so immersive into the Thai culture that it was almost like tacky when afterwards we went straight to the beach in the beach cities where all the tourists went.
Right. It was almost overwhelming to be around that many people again. And what did you take away from that experience in the Hilltribes? Because it was completely different than the way you've grown up.
I really enjoyed the sense of community that the Hilltribe had. Like, everybody was friends with everybody. Everybody always had a smile. Everyone was just everyone was just really friendly with each other, and it was just a really simple way of living as well. And I really took a lot from that as well.
That's awesome. after our time in the hill tribes, we went back to Chiang Mai, and we went to the elephant jungle sanctuary.
We did.
We did. We got into the back of a songtao, which is like a pickup truck that has turned the bed of a pickup truck into 2 benches with a cover on it. We rode all the way up to the elephant jungle sanctuary and basically in the back of a pickup truck, fighting the worst car sickness I've ever had in my life. As we're breathing in all the fumes of all the vehicles on the road. But it was worth the drive to get to this sanctuary.
It was.
So talk to me about your day with the elephants.
So I was really excited to play with the elephants. And we picked this place because they treat the elephants really humanely. And it is a sanctuary. It's not like you're not allowed to ride the elephants. You know, they're very strict about like the rules with the elephants. And because there's a lot of mistreating of elephants in Thailand. And I was really excited to get to play around in the water and the mud with the elephants. So we get there, and we were in a group of about 20, I would say. And this group was a combination of people that were spending like half the day and all the entire day with the elephants. So the group did shrink in size.
As the day wore on.
As the day went on. So they sat us all under. It was a hot day. It was a really, really hot day. So it was really nice to get to play in the water with the elephants. But what we did was they talked us through it, and then about what we were going to do.
And a safety talk.
We had a safety talk. And then out of nowhere, this guy just brings like 5 massive elephants like right next to us. And it was really scary. It was really scary to be that close to like a wild animal. But they gave us a bunch of bananas and a coat almost that you'd put on, and you'd put the bananas in the pocket of the coat. The elephants know that they're there, so they're like attacking you with their
trunk.
Their trunk to try to get the bananas out of your pocket. And you just give them to them one at a time, and they were really, really fun to play with and feed. And as we were playing with them, they explained like the elephants like they'll remember the people that spend time with them. And there've been people that have like worked with the elephants for like a month, and then they come back like 10 years later, and the elephants get excited to see them.
Yeah. And it's so cool.
It's so awesome. So after we all ate, we got to walk with the elephants down to a massive mud pit. And this mud pit's like the size of a swimming pool, and it's just like 2 feet of mud.
Yeah.
And the elephants would just start rolling around in the mud, and they would throw mud at you, and you'd throw mud at them, and everyone was just covered in mud by the end of it. And
you rub it on them to help like exfoliate them, and it feels good for them.
Yeah, and it
blocks the sun, keeps
away.
The bugs off. Yeah.
So and they really enjoy it. They like rolling around in the mud.
Yeah. And it absolutely occurred to us as we were playing and rolling around in the mud that it wasn't all mud.
There was definitely elephant poop in there.
Definitely there was. But we were having so much fun, we didn't even care.
Yeah, it was really fun. After like 20 minutes of just playing in the mud with the elephants, we got to walk down to the river that was right next to the mud pit, and we got to jump in this ice cold river, and it was freezing, but it felt really nice because of how hot it was that day. And then we would play with the elephants more in the river and like throw water on them, and they would throw water and roll around, and it was just a really, really fun experience to have.
Yeah, it was great. And the elephants are very sweet, and they feel very safe, but at the same time, like, you respect them because of their massive size. Like, once they're moving, they can't see you, really. Like, if you're standing off to the side and your foot's in the way, they're going to step on your foot if you're not paying attention, because they just don't have that kind of control over their massive bodies. So as long as you were staying aware of where they were and getting out of their way when they were moving, they were very sweet. Didn't you feel safe?
I did. I felt really comfortable around the elephants.
Yeah, and it was just peaceful. And because we stayed all day, we actually got to go on a jungle trek with them and walk them to the next camp, because Elephant Jungle Sanctuary is, they have like 5 or 7 different camps up at their location. And it's also run by the Karen Hilltribe. But it's kind of neat because instead of having the same group of elephants, and I think we ended up with probably 10 elephants at least, didn't we? Maybe 12?
Yeah, it was a lot.
We had a lot of elephants in our group. But instead of those same 12 elephants, day after day after day having to deal with tourists, like that's stressful. That could be stressful for an elephant and not the happiest life. So they walk them to the next camp where now they have a few days off while these other camps rotate in and have to spend their time with the tourists. And so it's just kind of a nice way to make sure that they're living a more natural life.
Yeah. And it was really cool getting to go to these other camps because we did get to see a baby elephant.
We did.
And it's so cute how like naive it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, so elephants they were always throwing dirt on their backs for the same reason they play in the mud. It's always really cool to see the elephants. They like dig into the ground to get the best dirt to do it. And the baby elephant was like so not good at it that he was
clumsy.
He was throwing trash on his back. He was throwing grass on his back.
Yeah. And completely missing his back. Yeah. It was cute to watch him try, but yeah, he was so cute and so little, and his mom was there too, and he was nursing. So, sadly, like Ryan was saying, in Thailand there is a real problem with abuse to elephants, especially for the tourism trade and letting people ride them, and just not good. And one of the things that can happen is they know that baby elephants are a draw for tourists. And so they would take baby elephants from their mothers in the jungle because it's a draw for them. It's tourism for them. And here at Elephant Jungle Sanctuary, like the only baby they had its mother there, which was awesome to see. And the other great thing about this sanctuary is that it provides jobs for the Karen Hilltribe. It provides not just jobs like at the sanctuary, but growing food for the elephants employs a lot of people. So yeah, it's just a great operation they have up there. And I didn't see a single bull hook the whole time we were there. They were all under voice command or just gentle hand commands, which was cool to see. And they do have programs where you can live out there for weeks or months at a time and learn how to really work with these elephants, which I think at least Ryan's older brother, Aaron, left there saying, I'm going to come live with the elephants. Did you feel that way at all? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a great experience to just a short amount of time we did spend with them. Like I grew so attached to them. Mm-hmm. It was really fun.
Well, that's the end of the first half of the interview with Ryan about his time in Thailand a year ago. And I hope you will come back next week and listen to the second half of his interview, where he talks about the rest of our time in Chiang Mai, as well as when we go down to Krabi, which is down in the Thai islands, for some beach time, and onto Ayutthaya, which is an archaeological city north of Bangkok. So please check back next week for that. Thank you for listening, travelers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and consider leaving a much appreciated review. For more travel inspiration or customized travel itineraries, questions, or heck, just to say hi, you can find me at www.greatwestvacation.com or on any of the social media platforms under the @GreatWestVacation handle.